Good morning and welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces, where your center is alive and well and in our hearts, where our vision is a world in loving partnership for the good of all. I'm Bob Greer. I'm your board president and your practitioner in service today with a few announcements. Our weekly spiritual circle discussion group continues into the new year at 11 a.m. on Wednesdays. If you're interested in that, just call the office. Our bookstore is open by appointment only at this time. Just call, and usually Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday you can come in, but just give us a call first to make sure that there's somebody here. Our newsletter is full of opportunities to join us in workshops and events, and online and with others in the New Thought community around the county. Call us, our office, if you needed to be added to the email list, or you can sign up on our website. And practitioner Teresa Valenzuela is facilitating the Association for Global New Thought Season for Nonviolence weekly discussion and meditation via Zoom. That runs Sundays from now until April 4th from 1 to 2 p.m. You're welcome to join any Sunday afternoon that you can. Call the office and they'll get you the information on how to join that meeting. Upcoming later on, Reverend Bonnie is going to be starting a class called Roots. This is a journey through the minds of New Thought luminaries who greatly influenced Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, studying people like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Judge Thomas Troward, and Emma Curtis Hopkins. And this starts in March. So if you're interested in getting in on that class, which is a great class, by the way, just call the office and we'll get you all your information. We fully believe in the principle of circulation and prosperity, and therefore we are a tithing community. This month, 10% of all we receive in tithes and offerings will be tithed to Casa de Peregrinos. And Casa de Peregrinos is a nonprofit organization committed to alleviating hunger and distributing nutritious food to over 30,000 people every year. They've been hit particularly hard this pandemic due to fund rises and past the fundraisers that they used to use in the past have been canceled and their donations are off. So this is a great cause for families needing food. Their motto is food for today, hope for tomorrow. And as your practitioner in service, I want to remind you that practitioners are available to pray with you over the phone. If you do not have their phone numbers, call the office and they will arrange to connect you with a practitioner. And also don't forget that we have a prayer request button on our website, and you can fill that out at any time. Those are confidential and those requests go directly to a practitioner, and then they are prayed on with our prayer team over a 2-week period. So this time it's time for song, silence, and prayer.
In this moment, I am calm. Calm is this moment. Calm, calm, calm. This moment is what I am. In this moment, I am one. One is this moment. One, one, one. This moment is what I am. moment I am still, is this moment, still, this moment is what I am.
So opening to this precious moment, knowing that the power and presence of Spirit of God is right here, right now, in and through all things, and I know that each one of us is connected to this source at all times. I'm just ever so grateful for this opportunity to be able to connect and know the greater truth. So I just bless this time, I bless this service, and I say, and so it is. And for today's reading, we have something out of the Science of Mind text. This is on page 79. It is the threefold nature of God. And it starts off, it says, "We find then, as we study our own being, we begin to deduce what the nature of God or the universal being is. There is no way we can know God except by studying man. Someone may say, God reveals himself. Yes, we think God reveals himself to us, but only by revealing himself through us. We know about God only as we judge what God must be. By studying the nature of those things which we can have somewhat analyzed, plus the intuitive feelings we have about eternal verities. If we study the true nature of man, then we shall have delivered unto the real nature of God, or first cause, from which man springs. As we have found that man is threefold in nature, we must deduce that God is threefold in his nature, i.e., that God is spirit, or self-knowingness, God is law and action, God is a result or body. This is the inner teaching of the Trinity of God, as knowing spirit means the divine being whom we have always thought of and believed in, the being to whom we have prayed and to whom we have adored. God as law means the way in which spirit works, and the law is the sense, in this sense, would be the servant of spirit. God as body means the manifestation of spirit. And so it is.
can do absolutely no wrong. I want to dance to the rhythm of love. Oh, let the wind spread the wind, the rhythm of love. I want to dance to the rhythm of love. Oh, let the wind spread the wind, the rhythm of love, till it falls down below and dances in hearts, so everyone knows how to dance to the rhythm of love. I want to dance to the rhythm of love. I want to dance to the rhythm of love.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Reverend Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here at the Center in Las Cruces. Thank you for joining again as we continue on this theme of one journey, many paths. The last time I spoke to you, I was talking about what is the journey that we're on anyway? What kind of journey are we taking? And this week, I want to focus on how do we make this journey? What kind of life do we create along the journey? In the December 2020 Science of Mind magazine, Reverend Dr. Edward Viljoen did the daily guides. And on December 13th, he talked about the difference he felt when he got his bike aligned with his body in terms of how much less pain he experienced riding once the bike was adjusted and aligned to suit him. He made the metaphysical comparison to how even just a quarter inch off on the bike caused pain. And in our spiritual lives, he said, what am I letting myself live in alignment with? When daily integrated into our way of being, a little dishonesty, a little sarcasm, a little snark may not seem like a significant misalignment. Yet left unattended over time, it is like riding a misadjusted bike until it begins to hurt. And so as I thought about that idea, I was thinking about what is it we do to get ourselves in alignment and prepared to take this journey? How do we want the journey to unfold? And I thought about what I do when I rent a car. When I rent a car, I get in and I adjust the rearview mirror, the side mirrors, I adjust the seat, get my seatbelt on, and I even adjust the radio because I don't want to be fiddling with it as I'm driving down the road. And so likewise, I started thinking, what kind of daily adjustments do I make so that my journey spiritually is more comfortable, so that I have a safer journey? What adjustments do we make? And I know that part of that adjustment process is done through my spiritual practice. And so I thought about that rear view mirror. How much time do we spend looking in the rear view mirror as we're driving down the road? Not much time. We look at it to help us decide if we're going to change lanes and it's safe. So the looking into the past is something we do to help guide us as we move forward, but it's not a place we want to keep our focus. Our focus is out through that front windshield, and it needs to be clear and clean so we have clear vision as we move forward. And that seatbelt, I thought about how it crosses our heart space, how it protects our heart center. And then on a bike, I was thinking, well, we put a helmet on. We use that to protect our thoughts or our head. And I thought, what do we put on spiritually to protect our thoughts and what's going on in our head? Well, all of these things are things that we do today in regard to when we want to drive or ride a bike, but I was thinking about my journey and where it started. And last time I spoke to you, I talked about learning to walk and what it takes for a child to learn to walk. And I thought back to that point in my life all the way through today. I realized that some people, when they start their journeys, they start off immediately in a family where there is struggle, where there's difficulty. And as I reviewed my life, I realized that my life wasn't like that. Sure, our family had its ups and downs, but in general, what I experienced was not struggle. And so the thought came to me, I've lived a charmed life. And so as I thought that, as usual, when something pops into my head, I then decided to think about and look at what does it mean to live a charmed life? And so I looked up the meaning of a charmed life. And it means usually lucky, prosperous, or happy, as if protected by magic. A life usually unaffected by dangers and difficulties. And this made me then think about what Ernest Holmes talks about when he said spiritual principles have been applied, and to the average person, when a result is obtained by this method of work, when we've applied spiritual principles, it can look as though a miracle has happened. But such is not the case. It is only a miracle as everything else in life is a miracle. And so the idea of living a charmed life or experiencing miracles, once we understand how Spirit works along this journey, we realize that it's part of how it works when we put our spiritual practices into practice. Well, this year, as my life has unfolded, I started to feel like, whew, the charm has gone. As I mentioned 2 weeks ago, life just seems to be winging it sometimes, and it's been winging it and brought up in front of me, front and center, a lot of lessons around grief. And at one point, a friend said to me, "How is it that you've stayed so strong?" And I thought, boy, I sure don't feel strong. And that got me thinking, what does it mean to be strong along the journey? And if I'm not feeling strong, what am I feeling as I'm encountering these bumps and these mountains of grief that just keep showing up along my pathway? And then my mind took me that place. I was thinking, oh, people don't want to listen to your process with grief. They listen to you on Sunday morning because they want to be uplifted. And so I struggled with that in terms of what I'm experiencing now and what I thought people should want to hear. And again, Mark Nepo, in the 7,000 Ways to Listen, spoke to me. In here, he tells the story of Beethoven and how as Beethoven progressed through life, he started to become deaf, and he did become deaf. And at the same time, in his mind, he heard music. And he wanted to produce that music, and so he would write it down and want people to play it. But once he wrote it down, he couldn't hear how it was being played. And at first, this caused a lot of grief in his life. Apparently, he isolated for a while and had to really grapple with what was going on. And Mark Nepo said, at first, he tried not to listen to his grief, to listen only to his gift. But soon he learned that this is the purpose of all gifts, to carry our grief, our joy, our humanness, and our confusion and wonder before all that is unknown. Further on, he said, we all find ourselves in the same tensions between the storm and music of life, between meeting the grief inherent in living and discovering the usefulness of the gifts that we carry. He said, each of us face tight passages on our journey in which what we need to be who we are is challenged. He concluded about Beethoven and for all of us that Beethoven's great music came out of this acceptance of both his gift and his humanness, out of this messy mix of will and surrender. And it was that word, surrender, that really spoke to me, because I haven't felt strong. In fact, to me, strength is something that we use consciously. We use our strength when we pick up a box or hold a child or walk up a hill. We use the strength in our body, and we use it in a way that's conscious. Now, Jennifer talked about in January how it is that our spiritual practices can strengthen our spiritual life. And so I could say that over the years, because I've had a spiritual practice, that I must have gained some inner strength. And yet at the same time, to me, using that strength is something we do consciously. And I have not felt like I have been consciously using any inner strength. What I have felt is like I've just resigned or relaxed or surrendered, like I've just had to lay back into the arms of life and let life carry me forward. I had this mountain arrive in front of me, and I have not taken the opportunity. I have not thought to myself, oh, I'm going to flex my spiritual muscles and bring it on, take me up this mountain. That has not been my reality. Instead, I have opted to look at the pathway right at my feet. I've opted to take one foot in front of the other. I focus on daily routines, which include my spiritual practice. I've focused on what I need to do today. I've focused on the center here and trying to connect with people through the telephone or video phone. And I've focused on, like I mentioned before, seeking out those moments of joy, finding those little things along the way that I can be grateful for. And miraculously, it seems like a miracle, but I know it's not, miraculously the days pass. Miraculously, beauty and joy and peace continue to appear. Miraculously, the reasons for gratitude, like a flower along the pathway, a hawk flying overhead, friends and people getting in touch with me, food and donations and gifts that keep being brought and dropped off. So as I have surrendered to what is, my new focus has been to just let it in, to notice what's going on around me, and to allow others the joy of giving. As I looked back over the pathways that I've taken in my life, I realized that I have fed my self-esteem, possibly my ego, by being the one to give and do for others. And as this year has forced me to surrender and relax back into the arms of life, I feel like I've found the moving sidewalk of life. I'm just standing on it, and life keeps moving me forward. So how do we make this journey? Well, I've come to realize that the how we make the journey, how we traverse the pathways that we've chosen and those that have showed up in front of us, the how is how we handle and face, move through, over, or around whatever shows up along the way. The how is how we continue to make music through deafness. How we find joy while grieving. Growing up, I think most of us either read, heard, or had read to us what were called fairy tales. And all those fairy tales ended with, and they lived happily ever after. And I believe that many of us have approached our New Thought spirituality, the teachings that we've learned through New Thought, as if they were the prince or princess charming that has ridden into our lives, hoisted us up on the horse behind it, so we could ride off into the sunset to live happily ever after. In January, Jennifer and the Baileys both mentioned how early in the teachings and introduction to these teachings, we talk about manifesting princes, palaces, and parking places, that's how this stuff works. And so I can imagine some people saying to me, well, if that's how it works, why don't you manifest what you want in your life? Well, the truth is, for a good portion of this journey, we get to manifest what shows up. We get to manifest what we want and manifest the pathways that we want to go down. And the truth is, sometimes we can't manifest exactly what we want. I want my son back. I want a do-over of the last 6 months prior to his passing. And I have to face the fact that I do not have the power to bring him back to life. That all I can do is surrender to what is. The truth is, this journey feels a lot less like riding on the back of a horse into the sunset to live happily ever after, and a lot more like agreeing to take a whitewater rafting trip. If you've ever been on a whitewater rafting trip, there are moments when you get to relax in the raft, let the river carry you, and you just enjoy the sun and the fresh air. There are moments when you use your strength to paddle and move yourself forward or take yourself to shore. And then there are the moments when you hit that white water and you hold on for dear life, and occasionally you even get bounced out of the raft. Well, usually before you get started on one of these trips, there's a guide who will tell you, we don't intend to lose anyone out of the raft. We don't intend for anyone to get bounced out of the safety of this raft, but just in case you do, here's a life vest we want you to wear. And so I pictured putting on that life vest and realized once again, like the seatbelt, it covers our heart space, it covers our chest, it covers that space where we connect with all that is. So I was picturing on the spiritual journey, what is being protected by the life vest? What do we hold most dear? So like the guides say, there is no intention of bouncing us out of the boat. But should you be bounced out, here is how you survive. Here is what you do and what you don't do. You do not try and stand up in the white water. You do not try and swim against the current or resist the river. What you do is roll over on your back, sit back into the current, lift your legs up, and put your feet up in front of you. You use your feet to push off of any rocks that show up and let the current carry you around the rocks, and eventually the current carries you out into the calm water. It reminded me of what Ernest Holmes said in the Science of Mind text, and this is on page 303. When Jesus said, "Resist not," he meant that non-recognition of evil is the only way to avoid it. This is true according to the law of cause and effect. For what we persist in recognizing, we persist in holding in place. That which we refuse to recognize, we neutralize, and it is no longer there as far as we are concerned. That idea that we teach about not resisting, when the force is that strong, we don't try and resist it. Instead, we sit back and just let life carry us out. As I have relaxed into what is, I realize that over this year, all I've really had the energy to do is just love the people that are still in my life and allow the love to come back to me. And then I had this aha. Love is our true nature. Love is what we really are. So of course it doesn't take strength to love. To love just requires that opening, to allow it to move through us and to allow it to move back to us. It is, like we say, God doing for us as it does through us. So along this journey, as I have hit the white waters of life and been bounced out of the safety of the raft, I trust that as I relax into life and surrender to what is this strong current right now, that I will eventually be spit out into calm waters somewhere further down the river. And so during my spiritual musings and questings over these last several months, I happened upon Ernest Holmes' words, again in the Science of Mind text, page 494 through 495, and this is just a snippet of that. The armor of God is faith in the good, the enduring, and the true. Further on, the breastplate of righteousness covers and gives sanctuary to the heart of hearts, the innermost soul of us. The feet shod with the gospel of peace, can travel and not be weary. With Solomon, we are happy when we find wisdom, for her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths are peace. And so again, I thought about what protects us. The armor of God is faith in the good, that breastplate of righteousness that covers and gives sanctuary to our heart. And then I thought about the feet that are shod with peace. It's like raising up in the water, not resisting. The peace that allows us to travel and not become weary. And as I thought about that, those words, to travel and not become weary, reminded me of an occurrence when I was in high school. In high school, for our senior picture, we were allowed to pick a phrase, something we wanted to put under our picture in the yearbook. I chose Isaiah 40:30 from the Hebrew Scriptures, Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings of eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Those words sounded similar to what I had read in Ernest Holmes. And so I started to think about that. What does it mean on the metaphysical level? But they that wait upon the Lord. Well, as Reverend Sam taught me, when we see the word Lord in the scriptures like that, we can change it out for the word law. But they that wait upon the law. And in our reading today, we were told that God as law means the way in which Spirit works. And law in this sense would be the servant of Spirit. So thinking about it again, they that wait upon the law, wait upon. Well, right there, that word wait also has two meanings. There's the word wait, meaning to sit calmly, to stay where one is, to delay action until a particular time or someone arrives, like when we're waiting for someone or something to take place. But the word wait also means to serve the needs of someone or something, to be in attendance to, like a waiter or waitress who waits on your table. So as I thought about, but they that wait upon the law, it has two meanings for us. It could be like the fifth step in the Science of Mind treatment, when we release our word into the law and we wait for the law to do its action, to take action upon our words. But it can also mean to wait upon the law where we take action in service of that law that we just put into motion. That part that we say, moving our feet after we treat. Either way, whether we're waiting and not acting or waiting through service to that law, we shall renew our strength. Either way, we trust and have faith in the law and the way it works. Like when we rock climb and we have to trust our boots, when we're rafting and we trust our life preserver or the integrity of the raft, when we're traveling by car and we trust what we see in the rearview mirror and our seatbelt, when we're on a bike and we trust the protection of our helmet and the alignment and adjustments we've made in the bike to our body. The journey called life, we trust our spiritual practice to be that breastplate that protects our heart space. In the words of Ernest Holmes, again on page 407 in the Science of Mind text, we cannot account for the seen without having faith in the unseen. All advance in science or any other branch of learning must follow this rule if it is to accomplish anything. To believe in life is to believe in the invisible. As science postulates some etheric movement in the center of all objective form, so we start with the premise that this initial movement starts as pure intelligence, independent of any form, but ready to take form. All form is temporary, even though it lasts for countless millions of years. That is, any given form comes and goes in a process of time, for any given time is temporary. And so I realized that a lot of what I've been saying could be construed as like having double messages or contradictory messages. We're talking about the invisible behind the visible. We're talking about the invisible law and visible order. We're talking about waiting upon the law as the invisible becomes visible. So sitting back and waiting, that's surrendering. And we are talking about waiting upon the law as we take action in support of the law that we've put into motion, as we co-create the visible that shows up along the journey. Once again, like I talked about in the last talk, it's both and. We reach for the light while basking in the light, and the light is emitted through us. We are strong, we use our muscles, we propel ourselves forward when the waters are calm. And then when we're thrown into the white waters of life, we relax back into the current. We surrender. We wait upon the law as it renews our strength. And like in our original reading for today, it's God expressing in its threefold nature. Both and, all of it is expressing all at once. We have God is spirit or self-knowingness, and then God is law and action. God is result or body. This is the inner teaching of the Trinity. God as self-knowing spirit means the divine being whom we have always thought of and believed in, the being to whom we have prayed and whom we have adored. And then God as law means the way in which Spirit works. And law in this sense would be the servant of the Spirit. And God as body means the manifestation of this Spirit. This trinity of being appears to run through all nature and all of life. So this is the how of the journey. This is the way it all works as we move along our journey. This is how we move and handle whatever shows up along the journey. Sometimes it may feel like or look like magic, but as we recognize and deepen in our understanding of that threefold nature of God, of Spirit, we recognize how it works in and through us. And I kept having this song go through my head, Kenny Rogers' song from The Gambler. You've got to know when to hold 'em, you've got to know when to fold 'em. You've got to know when to use your strength, when to flex those muscles and take a stand for something, when to paddle for shore or move yourself forward, and you need to know when to relax into the waters of life and surrender to what is. And at this point, I was going to conclude my talk by saying that I have truly lived a charmed life. And then I got word that my mentor and friend, Reverend Terry Lund, had passed. And once again, I got bounced out of that raft into the white waters. Into the white waters of grief. I took a few days in grief, and then our prayer team, the ministers and teachers and practitioners in New Thought, came together on Tuesday afternoon. And before we started praying on behalf of all of you, we took the time to honor and pray for and recognize Reverend Terry. Each one of us shared what we were grateful for about how she had served us and been a part of our lives, the places that she had held in our hearts. And I mentioned how her daughter, Cindy, when she called me to say it was okay to share the fact that she had passed, the family had asked for a few days respite before we shared with everyone. She told me, she said, "Mom told us, don't spend much time grieving over me. I want you to celebrate my life." And so as we came together and talked about the amazing things we were so grateful for having her in our life, we were able to move into that space of celebrating and out of feeling that grief. And so as that occurred, once again, I was able to move into that place of saying, I have lived a charmed life. I am so grateful for all the people who've showed up in it. So I hope you can join me in seeing and finding the charm in your life as well. Let's move into prayer. And so as we consider the charmed life that we all live as we put these principles and practices of Spirit itself, our spiritual practices, that which upholds us and protects our heart space, the allness of God in all of its expression. We allow that to move in and through us, to give us strength when we feel weak, to allow us to activate our strength when it is time to move forward, to hold us up when we've been knocked out or knocked down. We know that God is present. That Spirit of life is always present, always moving through us, buoying us up and carrying us forward when we don't have the strength to move forward on our own. And for that, I am just so grateful. I'm grateful for all the beings, the expressions of God that show up in my life like miracles, bringing greater joy, bringing things to be grateful for, being lights and flowers and serenity in my space. And I know that as this works in my life, it works in all life, all of your lives. And so I just know and pray in this moment that we open more fully to that love moving through us and to be held up in the arms of life as we wait upon the law to bring us strength so that we can walk and not be weary. I am so very grateful as I release these words, and so it is.
Who knows what tomorrow brings? In a world few hearts survive.
All I know is the way I feel. When it's real, I keep it alive. The road is long. There are mountains in our way, but we climb a step every day. Love lift us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on the mountain high. Love lift us up where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Some hang on to used to be, live their lives looking behind.
All we have is here and now. All our lives out there to find.
The road is long. There are mountains in our way, but we climb a step every day. Love lift us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on a mountain high. Love lift us up where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Time goes by, no time to cry. Life's you and I, alive today. Love lift us up where we belong. lift us up where we belong. Far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow. Lord, lift us up where we belong, where the eagles cry on a mountain high. Lord, lift us up where we belong, far from the world we know, where the clear winds blow.
So thank you again for joining us today. May your journey be safe and filled with love and light. Love you all.